super friends, and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday, where we talk about the arts of superheroes, storytelling, and so much more. My name is Annie, and welcome to my little writing corner desk. Today, we are just going to have a little bit of fun with superheroes and art by painting my fingernails with logos from famous superhero characters. And not just any logos, my favorite logos. And we're going to talk about how to draw each logo, how they're constructed, and what I like and dislike about, the different types of logos. So strap yourselves in, get some cool tea, and let's get painting. I was never really into makeup as a kid. I was usually too busy wearing t-shirts with words on them. I love t-shirts with words on them. But I loved doing nail art. I had so many different colors, and I just loved coming up with different designs for my hands that coordinated and had different vibes and glitter and colors, textures, and all of that kind of stuff. So first things first, I am going to do both DC and Marvel on my hands, and as you can see, I've already got my base coats on. This hand is going to be Marvel, and this hand is going to be DC. DC was really easy to decide because they have a lot of really great logos that I like to go with. And then Marvel, as I was searching, I was actually realizing that I don't like a lot of the logos that they have designed. In some superheroes, they just straight up weren't designed with a real logo kind of stylized into their costume. So I had to kind of pick and choose a little bit, and I'll explain a little bit more as I go along painting the nails. I am using just regular plain old acrylic craft paint that may or may not be 10 or 15 years old. The acrylic craft paint is really great for doing nail art. I've heard from the nail art community on YouTube. And even just starting to experiment a little bit with these base coats, it's really proving very cool because it's really easy to work with. It's super duper easy to clean up, although you got to be careful because any little bit of water right now on these nails will take all of the polish off, or the paint, and they dry really quickly. I have the hairdryer over here to kind of just speed things up a little bit, but it really dries very fast. And then when you're done, you can just add a clear top coat, and it should stay for at least a week, I think, from what I've experimented. I decided to go with Superman on the thumbnail because I figured that would be the most complicated symbol and also the most popular symbol to do. So I wanted to give myself as big of a canvas as I could. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of a white primer to it, which I should have done before because the red paint just does not want to show up. Now the Superman symbol is really well known, but it's also known to be really hard to recreate because all of the angles and stuff change during the different iterations, but they also are just really not simple shapes. A lot of good logos have simple shapes like circles and triangles and things, but Superman's logo is a pentagon and not a normal regular pentagon. It's this offset pentagon with an S curve in it that is also not very standard. So I have been practicing this logo for a long time, and I've finally kind of hacked it. All you gotta do is make sure it's offset a little bit, center everything across, and then get these two lines across the edges on the top here, this side over here and this side over here, to line up, and then you're good to go. As long as it kind of looks even, it should be recognizable. And while that's going, we're gonna move on and get some more base coat in on the other ones. For the basic shape for Wonder Woman, which is going to be my pointer finger here, it's really just a W. And I'm gonna use the white primer on this as well because I don't expect the yellow to be very opaque, especially over this red. So we've got the W shape and then some wings off of the edges. There we go. That should be the basic shape. Same thing for Batman. I like the classic Batman 90s logo, so we're gonna go with a big circle in the middle, and then we'll layer it on with the yellow and then do the bat symbol on top of it. In designing logos, it's usually really good to stick with one or two colors. And the Batman logo is actually really good for that because even though it typically has, in my favorite iteration, the yellow in the background, what it does have very simply and very easy to repeat is the bat symbol. The next one we're going to do is the Flash, which also has a more standard shaped circle in the middle that's white, so we're going to start off with that. There's a lightning bolt that goes across it. So again, to kind of help us out with the yellow later on, I'm going to do a straight line and then make the circle a little bit bigger than that just so we get the yellow in there as well. And then the last one on the DC hand is going to be Green Lantern because it's just a great logo. Nice big circle, and then basically just 2 straight lines across the top and the bottom. Simple shapes, easy to recognize, and it actually matches the lantern of Green Lantern. So that'll be nice and easy. Okay, so now that we've got the DC hand kind of primed out, we're gonna go over to the Marvel hand, which means I'm gonna start painting with my left hand. I'm actually okay at painting with my left hand. The trick is to go very slowly and to take steady strokes. And sometimes if you really need that detail move, you can move your dominant hand and just keep your non-dominant hand still. It feels like how you cut with scissors, you know, you don't turn the scissors, you turn the paper, that kind of thing. Now for my thumb on the Marvel side, I chose Captain Marvel, and I'm super regretting it because it did need the big template for the thumb, but this is one logo that I'm very not familiar with, and when I did the primer, if you can kind of see that, the red was not clear enough, or it was not solid enough, it was not opaque enough. So I had to do like 10 layers of red just to get that showed up. So that's why I'm starting to do primer now, because that's the right thing to do when you're painting with multiple layers and multiple colors. Let's go ahead and give this yellow stripe across a little bit of primer. We're just kind of covering up the seam between the red and the blue to make it look nice and neat. And again, the cool thing with acrylic paint is that if you overdraw a little bit, it's really easy to clean up. You basically just have to scrape it with the back of the paintbrush. Well, when it's dry. When it's wet, it just runs around. And then we'll also need the 8-pointed star in the middle. Line up and down, and then across, and then across. And we're not going to be doing black outlines or anything, we're just doing colors because it's so small, but that will just about do us. There we go. That will definitely work. Our next one on the pointer finger is going to be Captain America, which is also a very complicated shape, but it's built up of a lot of smaller shapes. So what we're going to do, we're going to just start out with the circle for Cap's shield, because like I said, the red just was not working with me over the blue, and we'll layer in the red over that when we get back to it. Actually, I think Captain America is one of my favorite logos of all the different types of superhero logos, because even though it is 3 colors, which is generally not as optimal necessarily for branding and stuff as, say, a just 1 color or 2 color logo, it's super duper recognizable. It's real easy to just stamp on something, and I just love how it looks. It's so bold and patriotic, and I just love it. So for our next one, this middle finger, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with Spiderman. So that one actually doesn't need any primer on it. This next one is going to be the Fantastic Four, which we will draw in blue, so we don't need a primer for that either. And this last one is going to be Black Widow, which gonna paint black around it. So now that that's all done, let's grab the hairdryer for just a second. Make sure if you do use a hairdryer, if you're doing this yourself, if you blow on your hands between layers, that you put this on low so you don't accidentally spray the paint in a different direction. Low will just give it a nice even heat to dry without, you know, making the paint go all over the place. And you can really also see the benefit of acrylic paint because you can see when it's dry really easily. If it's shiny, it's wet. If it's not shiny, it's dry. So back to these ones. Let's start with the yellow because we do have a lot of that. We'll do the yellow on Wonder Woman. We're just gonna go across with a W, go like that. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of a white outline on this one because that actually looks really cool. There we go. Oh yeah, that's gonna look cool. The important thing is not that it's perfect logo-wise, but that it looks smooth. Because if it looks smooth and is in the right shape, then everyone will be able to look at that and say, hey, that looks like the Wonder Woman logo. Beautiful. For Batman, we will want to do the yellow dot there. So let's just fill this in with yellow. So we're doing the actual lightning stripe there. Try and give it a little bit of a zigzag here. And then just the tiniest little circle around the outside, but just enough so we can still see the white. Yeah, the yellow's a little bit hard to see on the white, I think, but that definitely gets the point across. And then since we're here, let's switch over to Green Lantern, the only one that has green in it, actually, on my hand. And we'll just kind of fill in the white with the green. Oh yeah, that primer worked real good for us. And then when that green dries, we'll come back and put the circle in the middle in black, and there you go. That's that. And then let's switch over to the red and we'll finish off this DC hand with Superman. Now the Superman logo is easier than it sounds. As long as you can get that pentagon shape at the angles that you want it, that's pretty good. That'll get at least good enough to go. Come across and do an outline on the pentagon. Ooh, that is nice and thin. I should have used that on one of the other brushes. Yeah, and maybe we should have done the yellow first. And again, the Superman logo is really interesting because it's easy to see, but it has a lot of colors on it. So it's hard to mix and match on different backings. Since the white is dry, let's go ahead and put the yellow in the middle here because the next part is going to be the hardest and we don't want to mess it up by adding in the yellow in afterward. Okay. Let's hit it with the hairdryer and we'll be right back. Okay, that looks nice and dry. What we're gonna do is start with the middle of the S curve that goes across. You wanna kind of just pull the S right underneath the edges of the pentagon and go across like that, but then leave a little bit of room for the bottom and give it a little bit of a bump on the edge of the S there. And then we'll put a little chunk of paint right here at the top corner on the right. Pull that up and make sure to leave a little yellow spot in the corner there. And then curve this back one around, but leave that space in the other corner so you can see the yellow. And then what you want to do is just thicken up that middle line, but leave those yellow spaces. And it actually goes almost so far thin on the edges that you almost don't even need to pull it around. But if you do just a little smidge on the outside edges there, that will give you the S curve that you want. And it's as easy as that. Again, it's really weirdly complicated angles, but as long as you get the anchor point, then you're totally good to go. Let's do Batman. We're gonna grab the black paint a little bit. And Batman's is also similarly complicated and uncomplicated. And what you wanna start with is the outside edges of the bat wings. You're just gonna kind of pull it around in a circle like that and do the other edge too so that you've got kind of this parenthesis looking shape around the outside. Then in the very middle on the top, you wanna add the bat ears and then pull those straight down into a single point at the bottom. And then you kind of just pull it up so you can see the bat. And for the top ones, you just curve this around to the peak of the bat wings. And then for the bottom, there's actually an extra little dip. Put a little spot down there, and then the same spot on the other one, and then loop it around so that there's a bunch of curves. The little edges of the wings. There we go. Again, easy as that, but it's hard enough to figure out. So if you can get the steps in those orders, then usually you can come up with a good looking bat symbol that matches with the real Batman. And then for our Green Lantern one, we're gonna put a dot in the middle because it's hard to draw a circle, but it's easy to draw a dot. But that's basically that logo. So we'll clean up a little bit of the edges just to make it nice and neat. So that's our DC hand all done with the painting portion at least. We've got Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, and Green Lantern all done and dusted. Let's start with this hard one and we'll work down. Although really this isn't hard anymore. We're just covering up the white with the yellow. We've got the little star in the middle, which is also pretty military-esque, military inspired, but it also indicates Captain Marvel's star power. That looks pretty good. I was really nervous about that one. Oh, Captain America. How could I forget? Okay, now this one is actually gonna scare me because we're gonna have to do a lot of fine detailing here. So Captain America's shield has basically 2 red circles and a white circle. So let's start with the outer circle, and then the middle is a star on a blue dot. Yay, circles with my left hand! That was kind of bad. We'll clean it up here in a second. And honestly, the trick with tiny painting is to use as many layers as you need because there's not a lot of paint going on. It's not going to take a long time to dry in between. So do what you got to do. Work with the paint. So that means what I'm gonna do is put a red dot in the middle here, so we don't actually have to draw that tiny circle. We just have to draw a smaller circle and not cover up the white. And I'm gonna make sure it's big enough to at least try to put a star. That might do us. Okay, and this will take just a second to dry, so let's hit it with the hairdryer. I think that's dry enough for us to work with. So let's go ahead and take the blue. Just do a little dot in the middle of this red for the background of the star. Okay, this is definitely the hardest one. Okay, and then we'll dry that. And this is why, even though Captain America's logo is one of my favorites, it's really not a very good logo because that is some complicated stuff. Last little bit is let's see how tiny a star we can make. Just barely pull it. Oh boy. Okay, that was definitely the hardest part. But it looks like a tiny star. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it's kind of in the shape there and it is what's supposed to be there, then, I mean, that's recognizable, right? I'm gonna clean up the red just a little bit and try not to overdo it. There we go. Whew. Okay. Now for the next one. So all you really have to do with Spider-Man is, again, take a few basic shapes. Right in the center, put a little dot. And then above that, a smaller dot. And then you want to make 8 legs for your spider. 2 sets on each corner, basically. And then the upper ones are smaller than the lower ones, and they all have this kind of V shape. And then make them all match into that middle of the hourglass shape. Oh yeah, that's way too thick. Do as much pulling as you can. Pushing is not good for small lines. And then the bottom ones are just really long versions of the top. Again, why did I do Marvel with my left hand? I don't know. And they can mash up a little bit. It's okay, as long as you've got that definition. So that one we'll have to clean up a little bit with the red, but that's the basic idea. Just kind of edge up the difference there. Anyone who sees it is gonna go, oh my gosh, you painted it so small. How did you do that? Well, it's not perfect, that's how. There we go. Okay, Spider-Man done. Almost through, we're on nail number 9. The next logo that I chose for Marvel is not one of those big names. Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk. None of them really have very concrete logos, at least none that are used very much in their costumes and none that make a lot of sense. So that's why I ended up using the Fantastic Four, because their 4 logo is nice and simple. A circle with a 4 in it, and sometimes there's a little bit of stylization there. It's just bold, easy to recognize, and easy to reproduce and to put on merchandise. So we're gonna very carefully draw a big circle. Yeah. That bottom corner always gives me trouble. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of make this a really haphazard circle. As long as the outer edge is good, we'll make the inner edge match and create that circular line. Start with that, we'll hit it with the blow dryer. And we're gonna take the white and do another circle in the middle so that it's a little easier to get that nice thin outer circle line. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just get it as even as possible. Hair dryer time. And for the last layer, we're gonna draw a 4. It's a little close to the bottom. It doesn't go all the way across, but it does go all the way up. And then attach it. I'm just gonna take a tiny little speck of white for the middle. And there we go. Fantastic Four. And for our very last one, we're gonna take a little black paint and we're gonna kind of do negative space style for the Black Widow, widow thing? This is a pretty cool logo because obviously it makes sense as the Black Widow because, hello, it's the Black Widow spider thing. Nice and easy for your typical black spandex jumpsuit. And it just is really nice and simple. There we go. Hair dryer! And I'm just gonna touch it up with a little bit more red. All right, and there we have our Marvel and DC logo fingernail polish out of acrylic paint. I think those came out pretty good. So the important thing to note here is if you ever want to do something like this yourself, just getting the acrylic done is not enough because they will come off immediately as soon as you scrape anything or get them wet or whatever. So what you're gonna wanna do is put a clear coat of actual fingernail polish on top, so just to seal that in and secure it against, just the standard, wear and tear of having human hands. So I'm gonna put that on real quick and then we'll get back to the video. The cool thing is that the clear nail polish over the top will not only protect the nails, but it also kind of seals everything in and makes it look glossy and finished like someone professional did it. I guess I'm a professional, but I'm a professional writer, not a professional nail artist. I actually really enjoyed this. I've been dying to do this for a long time. It was a challenge, but it was nice to be able to share with you guys a little bit of information about the different logo designs and just kind of have a little bit of fan art to wear on my fingernails. And there you have it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did. Go ahead and give us a big thumbs up if you did, with either your Superman thumb or your Captain Marvel thumb. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more superheroic and artistic content. You can support us over on Patreon or by just following us on social media. And if you want to see my own superheroes in action, you can go over to our website at www.fearless9.com and pick up some books that may just contain your new favorite superheroes. Thanks so much for watching, Super Friends, and we'll see you next time. Also, P.S. if you've reached the end of this video, that means you are a super fan, and thank you so much. And I just want to say again, a thank you for allowing me, and not that you're in control of my channel, but allowing me to take a little bit of time off and recalibrate what I want to do with this channel, because I had a video I was working on before and it just was not very good content. A lot of things didn't work out, it wasn't super interesting, and I just wasn't enjoying putting it together. So taking a little bit of extra time and deciding to do stuff that I really enjoy is actually really beneficial for me, and I hope will turn into a lot of good videos for you guys. See you next time!